Hello, everyone. This is Jeanette Shalika, and I'm here with the lovely Lisa Lisson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jeanette. I'm excited.
I am too. Now, I was just saying, before, I truly have been following you for years, and I really appreciate all of the content that you put out online. But I'm curious because we haven't, I don't think, run into each other at a conference or anything. Um,
No,
how did you get started in genealogy?
I got started many years ago. It was about this time of year. I remember it was August, one summer. My kids were mid to late elementary school. And I live in North Carolina, and it was just hot. It was too hot to go to the swimming pool, and they wanted to Google themselves. And so we started Googling, then we started like, well, let's see where we're from and all this stuff. And literally it just started to snowball. Now I grew up knowing all my grandparents, some of my great grandparents. I have lots of cousins. So I kind of had a lot of that in the background, and would chat about it every now and then with friends, but never really dove into genealogy until about that time period. So once the kids got me started, and so then I'd get on there and research, like when they would go to bed at night, I'm like on there till like all hours.
That's so cool. Just starting by Googling yourself. And then I imagine then you're like, well, let's Google grandpa and grandma and see,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then it was, oh, we got to call grandma and grandpa. I know. And it just kept going.
I love it. So that's when you started
Mhm.
your own genealogy. When did you start your genealogy business?
Probably a few years later, what was happening is I love blogs. I wanted to be a blogger. And so I started blogging about what I did and what I was finding, because all my cousins were asking me, about things. They would email me, and I was, I just wanted a central place where I could say, oh, check this out. This, here, learn what I learned about, our great grandfather here. And so that's really kind of how that started. And then I realized more people besides my mother and my cousins were reading it. And then I started becoming more intentional, and then eventually it's like, well, hey, this is my gig. This is really what I want to do. So I did join like the ProGen group that was going on at the time. I was fairly new at the time, and so I could start to work for other people as well.
And from your blog, now you've grown your business into a YouTube channel. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So I'm not 100% sure how I started the YouTube channel. I needed a place to put some videos one time, I think, when I was to put on the website. And I actually really just found I liked making videos, and sometimes it's easier for me to talk than it is for me to write it out. It's just quicker and easier. And so that's really how I started. And then I decided I really enjoyed the process of making the videos. So that became a big piece of it as well. And now I just feel like in today's market, with the video and then with the blog post, to have them both, I recognize people want to take in their content in different ways. So I just really wanted to meet that need for folks.
Yes, I enjoy audible learning as well. Is that auditory learning, maybe?
Yeah, auditory
Yeah.
learning.
Sorry, I listen to Audible all the time as well.
I do too.
That's how I drive. That's, I can't not be having learning going on while I'm driving, because then I feel I am missing an opportunity to multitask. So I will often be running YouTube, and just listening to the videos, with channels like yours or things like that, or listening to podcasts. So yeah. And then do you take clients for your business also?
I take a few, but I do more through I now have VIP genealogy days. So if somebody has like a sticky problem, or if they're just getting started in genealogy and just need somebody else's eyes, you can rent my brain for a day, basically, and spend the day with me virtually. And we start with creating the plan for whatever the research question is, and then we actually get right into it with the records and diving in and see what else is out there.
So it's like coaching and, interactive. You can both. Yeah, I love that.
Exactly. It's very interactive. It's the kind of thing where a lot of times what I see is folks tend to they stick with the traditional records, but don't really, you need to get off into special collections or to check other types of repositories, but not really sure how to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's my thing. I love seeing what else is out there and thinking kind of outside the box and figuring out what did that ancestor really do.
Oh, that's so cool. So coming up, you're going to be sharing a program with VGA that's called Discover Your Family's Medical History Through Genealogy Research. Can you share with us a little bit about what we're going to learn in that presentation?
Yes, and this is what I'm really excited about, because so a lot of people don't know that I actually have a medical background. So I actually worked as a physical therapist for many years and before coming into genealogy. And so I absolutely love adding social history into my research as part of a way to share the stories, but also as a way to direct my research. And if something was important to our ancestors, it's important to us. And their medical health, their health was very important to them. And it actually could dictate where they ended up, where they moved, what they did, what types of jobs they had. So I found that by paying attention to those types of records, I could start to find ancestors. I actually lost an ancestor and I found him when I discovered his some issues about his medical health, and I found out where he was. I found out where he went. So, and I talk about that in the program. So that's a teaser.
Well, and as you're explaining it, I'm trying to think how many different sources I can imagine where I would get medical history, and I can imagine, a death certificate, or I had a family member that spent time in the state asylum, things like that. So I can only come up with 2 off the top of my head. I can't wait to hear all of the other sources that you're going to share with us when you do your presentation.
I think you'll be surprised, because I was actually surprised as I really started getting into it. I was actually surprised at where I was finding these kinds of records. And people will ask, is it their medical? It's not the ancestors' medical history. You still can't get hold of that stuff out there. But I've been amazed at what I can find, and what you can infer from some records as well.
Sure. Yeah. Now I got a little bit. There's some in the census too that might.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't want to ruin the surprise. I'm going to see if I'm right. And I've got, another week where I can start, like working my
brainstorm. Start brainstorming.
Yeah.
I think you'll be surprised at what you come up with too, as well.
That's super cool. Okay, Lisa, thank you so much for doing this interview. And I know I am excited about your upcoming VGA presentation, so I'm sure that others are as well. So thank you very much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.